on a Monday, episode 219, Mr. Relevant. I'm Alex Strouf with you from the Gruber Law Office's one call That's All studio at the Avenue in downtown Milwaukee. Joshie DiMaggio is with me as well. Producer Tiny Hands Hunter Vaughn is back in the great city of Madison at the Everlight Solar Studio in downtown Capital City. We've got a hodgepodge of stuff to get into, man. We're going to talk injuries. We're going to talk Packers. We're going to talk NFL Combine. We're going to talk about the Bucks. I don't want to start with any of it, though. I actually want to completely pivot. Hunter, good morning, afternoon.
Good afternoon.
How was your Sunday?
It was good. Went to the Bucks game, had a great time. Had a great weekend. Weird thing happened, though. I'm going to throw you off with this one.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
on Friday, if any of our fans follow the ESPN Madison social media account, I was on there as we were getting ready for Brewers baseball to start on Saturday, our first broadcast here in Madison, and did the whole thing with what are you listening to? And I said the Sal Frelick home run from Game 3 against the Mets. And I had just some corded iPhone headphones in. My wife trolled me in the comments and said, she was like, who wears headphones with a cord anymore? Like, started my weekend off getting trolled by my wife in the comments section. It was a great way to start the weekend. But I had a good Sunday.
You were with your wife Sunday, correct?
I was. I was with my wife on Sunday. Went to the Bucks game. Was having a great time. Also took my mother-in-law and sister-in-law to the game. And
all right, slow down.
No, I know. I'm getting there.
Okay. Your mother-in-law.
Yes.
How old?
Mid to late 70s, I think, somewhere in there. Not exactly sure.
Is she familiar with the concept of furries as the convention was going on down here this weekend?
She is now.
Go on.
Got off the interstate, made the turn to go towards Pfizer Forum, and there happened to be a furry running across the street. To which my mother-in-law goes, "Why is there a horse in the middle of the road?" I was like, "Mary, that's not a horse." And then had to explain to my mother-in-law what a furry is. So was not how I was expecting that Sunday to go. But, educated my mother-in-law.
Hey, we love educating.
It's a full circle moment. Friday, I got distracted with the not a furry wearing person that I have here in front of my face. Strouf, you sent us multiple encounters you had over the weekend with the furries.
There was just packs of them walking around the city. A whole litter.
Was the furry you saw actually a horse, or was it a fox and your mother-in-law was just mistaken? Because the fox seems like the most prominent one.
Popular,
yeah, it was
popular
definitely
choice.
A fox. It was brown, though, so like I understand the mistake.
Right.
Especially like you don't expect to see a human being dressed like an animal in the middle of downtown Milwaukee.
Crossing your vision.
Yeah. Like honestly, a horse is like a more likely thing. So yeah, that was something else. And then because I'm like, oh yeah, there's a furry convention happening downtown. My wife turns to me and is like, why do you know that? Mm-hmm. So then I'd give the entire backstory of our Friday show, which was good. Again, something I was not expecting to have to do.
I got to say, we made a mistake. Like, the fact we didn't do Mr. Relevant live from the convention.
Yeah, there's two things I wanted to add to this. One, next time it happens, we need to make sure we know it's happening and try and at least...
We got to go.
At least go and try and interview people. Yep. I can imagine they're not too open to outsiders because I'm sure they get picked on a lot. But we could try to get in there and just say we want to learn more about the furries.
I do. No disrespect. I want to know more.
I don't know if it's a good idea if I go because I'll have a hard time not laughing at them. So maybe we send you two because I'm not good at holding a straight face.
Well, the good news is Hunter is one of the most respectful human beings of all time. Like the dude is not one to yuck your yum. Yeah. Right? That is just not Hunter's MO.
Yeah.
So I think he would fit in perfectly.
Well, I don't know if he'd fit in.
Yeah, I was going to say fitting in is a little mean.
Accept him.
Yeah,
you would get accepted.
I would be respectful to them and just like, okay, I genuinely just want to know why.
And you sent us, Strouf, a video of a whole litter, as we said, crossing. That's a missed opportunity. You got to go up and approach.
I wasn't there. It actually was not my video.
Oh, okay.
I was in Green Bay when this happened. I was up. I was educating the youths at the Wisconsin Broadcasters Association student seminar
Can't believe they let you in there
over the weekend. Hey man, I'm a wealth of knowledge. Actually, so it was a panel about podcasting, which obviously we are doing right now.
I've heard of them.
And one of the questions, so it was essentially Q&A, right? There was about 200 students in attendance, which was awesome for our panel. And so we just took questions the whole time. One of the final questions I received was, Alex, this question is for you. How did you come up with the nickname Tiny Hands? And how do you know if you've crossed the line with Tiny Hands? Because the two of you seem to argue a lot. It was literally a question I received. And I said, well, number one, thank you for listening. Number two, I don't know. We've done 200 of these together. Like, you know, you kind of figure out
there's some mutual understanding here.
Yeah. So, and how I came up with the nickname Tiny Hands, for those of you that are unaware, it's very simple. Hunter, he's what? How tall are you? 6'1", 6'2"?
6'1". And
You're
probably, I have hands of like a 5'5" person.
Yeah. I mean, it's
real short fingers.
He has smaller hands than you would expect somebody with his body type to have.
I got pretty small hands, too.
You do have small hands.
I'm only 5'10", though.
I surround myself with tiny hands.
Yes. What size shoe do you wear?
Me?
Yeah.
I wear an 11.
I'm a 9.5 guy.
See,
okay.
I'm 11.5, sometimes a 12.
Wow. So your hands and feet are disproportionate. They don't equal.
They don't match up. It's weird.
I would have thought the feet followed the hands. I thought that's how that worked. I don't know why I thought that's how it worked, but that's what I thought.
I mean, it's a fair assumption. Like, both of them are the end of your limbs. Like,
wow. Yeah. We're really solving the world's problems today.
Uh-huh.
I'm proud of our efforts thus far. It's been a good start to the show. Let's get into the topics we have decided to talk about today instead of the ones we did not discuss at all, which is what we have spent the last 9 minutes on. Let's get to Brewers pitcher Abner Uribe, who last year tore his meniscus, season-ending injury, while in AAA. By playing hacky sack, he was kicking around the sack and tore his meniscus. It's a sentence I never thought I'd say. So, A, what the hell? How do you do that while playing hacky sack? And number two, why is it that the Brewers, of all teams in professional sports, have the most unique injuries, right? So Abner Uribe, the most recent case, tearing his meniscus while playing hacky sack. We go to Devin Williams missing the postseason a couple years back because he punched a wall. We go to Jonathan Lucroy, who allegedly smashed his hand after his wife dropped a suitcase on it in a hotel room.
He has since admitted that was not the case.
I'm aware, but that was the reason we were given.
Yeah.
That's why I said allegedly. This one, I remember I covered the rehab assignment up in Appleton for this fella, Scooter Gennett, the former second baseman. Who, by the way, isn't he kind of a nut job? Didn't that come out recently?
He had some interesting tweets.
I think he abandoned his family too.
Yes.
Okay. Interesting. He cut his hand on a soap dispenser in a shower. I think they were in Pittsburgh. Sliced his hand open. Had to rehab with the Timber Rattlers for a few games. Covered that series. It was so anyway, my point here is why.
Did you mention the Rowdy Tellez?
No.
In 2023, he got his finger wedged between the outfield pads.
Right. Yeah.
And had his nail completely ripped off and a small fracture, I believe. He was just shagging fly balls in the outfield.
K-Rod stepped on a cactus barefoot, missed a couple of spring training games.
Yes. That's right.
This happens to this team all the time.
Why?
See, here's the interesting thing is, this isn't... Now, the Brewers, obviously, we pay the most attention to them, but this happens to baseball players at an absurd amount. And I don't know if it's simply the amount of baseball players there are on any given team, but you'd figure a football team would have the same. Don't you remember Trevor Bowers and the drone incident where he picked up a drone that was on and sliced his hand and he was bleeding on the mound? If you type in MLB's weirdest injuries, there's just a laundry list of things that have happened, and they're all recent. I'm 20 deep and it's 2022. It's just for whatever reason, baseball players are prone to these just extremely bizarre, oftentimes not even related to the sport injuries.
Well, I guess that makes sense because it's not obviously the most physical of sports, baseball. So
Lack of athleticism thing you're saying?
I mean, you don't have to be a world class. I mean, you do have to be a world class athlete, but
It's pretty hard to hit a baseball.
it is.
Throwing 96 ain't necessarily easy.
Yeah, just a little bit. But my point is more so, you're not getting concussions often, which did happen to a Brewer. I forgot who that was.
Remember
Somebody knocked their head.
Carlos Correas, he fractured a rib getting a massage? What do you mean? That's not how that's supposed to work.
It's a tough masseuse.
That is. They're really working you.
It's a tough masseuse. So my question for you in the YouTube chat and for Joshy and Hunter is, any odd injuries in your career? I fell down the stairs and broke my pinky once, but that's about as weird as I've gotten.
I once fell down the stairs and had to have my head cranked to the side because I strained it really bad once. But I had one of my most embarrassing injuries just happen about a year ago. It was kind of right around this time.
Uh-oh.
The local establishment here it's a brewery and a wiffle ball field.
Oh, I heard about this.
Yeah, and I was playing wiffle ball, having pretty good games, getting on base, running the bases, and there was a situation where there is a ceiling. It is a building, so a ball hit the ceiling. It was bouncing around. It is live if it's still in play, and I took off to go to third base, realized it had hit, turned back around, and then on the way, when I realized it was hitting the ground to push off, popped my calf. And it was the old school, when they say you heard or felt a pop in the back of your leg, everyone immediately thinks, oh, no, that's Achilles.
Oh, no.
Luckily for me, it was not my Achilles, but there was a solid 30 minutes as I was in immense pain on the sideline because tearing your calf is painful. You need it to walk.
Do you get surgery for that?
You can if it's severe enough. I avoided the severity I still had slight range of motion, but it wasn't until a few months ago where I could stand on my tippy toes on that leg because you needed to get the strength back in it.
Oh, wow.
We had just recently got a puppy, so the being on the shelf with the torn Achilles really wasn't much of an option for me at the time. And luckily, it really only affected me for about a week. But wiffle ball with a bunch of guys drinking beer.
Yeah.
And, and then there's been, have a few too many brewskis. Maybe trip on a curb and tear your rotator cuff, things along those lines, stuff like that. Maybe that's happened in the past.
Well, I'm sorry to hear about your calf.
It's back.
You can stand on your tippy toes again.
I can.
That's the most unathletic injury I've ever had. Playing wiffle ball at a brewery.
It's not that competitive. You just get lost in the moment.
They lost the sauce a little bit.
For some reason, I'm full dead sprinting without, it's not like I properly stretched beforehand. I just went out there and said, I'm going to hit some dingers. Yeah. Ended up on second base and got caught up tearing my calf.
Good one. Hunter, any weird injuries in your camp?
I got a concussion while raking the lawn once. Yeah, my dad was in the garage doing some work. He's a woodworker and stuck my head in the window to talk to him for a second. Backed my head out, slammed it on the window, stumbled backwards, and ended up laying on the ground for a little while. Turned out I had a concussion. My dad, when I was like 8, he was making the bed and putting the fitted sheet on, and as he was like reaching down underneath, he tore his bicep. Just like fully, just like the whole thing ripped.
Ouch.
Yeah.
It's not rude of me to laugh, right?
Well, at this point,
now,
we're at like 20-something years, so I still laugh at him for that because it's like he was an athlete, and that's how he gets like one of his worst injuries. Sometimes
when things are ready to go, they just go.
Just like your calf.
In 1994, Steve Sparks, former Milwaukee Brewer, attempted to tear a phone book in half, which is like a classic old school strongman feat. And he delayed his time into the MLB because he dislocated his left shoulder in the process of trying this strongman feat. Knuckleballer Steve Sparks. 9-season career. I mean, Sparksy really...
Did Sparksy tear the phone book?
I don't think so. I don't think if the desired result happens that you're going to dislocate your whole shoulder.
Oh, that's so good. All right, well, if you have any weird injuries you'd like to share with us, feel free. ESPN Milwaukee, ESPN Madison on YouTube, or hit me up on Twitter at Alex_Strouf, Strouf, the spelling on that. I do want to get to this, though. I was driving on Saturday, as I mentioned, up in Green Bay, taking in the beautiful scene that is Lambeau Field, and it popped in my head. Like I occasionally need a cold beer after a long day, I need Aaron Rodgers in the NFL in 2025. I need Aaron Rodgers to play. And I think here's something we've been doing wrong, right? We have a standard that we hold Aaron Rodgers to. One of the all-time greats, one of the most talented quarterback ever, 4-time MVP in the league. We hold him to the standard of he needs to be the best quarterback in football, which is fair for a guy as accomplished as Aaron Rodgers, even at 41 years old. And while the Jets did not have a good season last year by any means, right? Firing their head coach, Jeff Ulbrich takes over. They trade for Devontae. It doesn't go well. The offensive line can't block anything. And the Jets obviously fall very short of the playoffs. Now they're going to end their tenure as Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback. But I think we inflate how, quote-unquote, bad Aaron Rodgers was in 2024. He threw for just a touch under 4,000 yards. He completed 63% of his passes, which isn't great. Threw for 28 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. Now, again, Jordan Love certainly did not have his best season, but he threw for, in 2.5 less games, mind you, 500 less yards, 3 less touchdowns, and the same amount of interceptions in 2.5 games less than Aaron Rodgers. So statistically, and this isn't the entire story, Aaron Rodgers had a better season than Jordan Love did last year. Now, Jordan Love made the playoffs. Jordan Love won 11 games, or the Packers won 11 games in the regular season, which is 5 more than the Jets won. But Aaron Rodgers was healthy. He played all 17 games, and statistically had a top 10 quarterback season. So that says to me, Aaron Rodgers is still ready to be a starter in the NFL this upcoming season. The betting odds released over the weekend, the Rams, the leader in the clubhouse, and then the Steelers and Raiders just behind them, as Aaron Rodgers' next destination. As long as he's not in the NFC North, I'm going to sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. I really want to see Aaron Rodgers play again in 2025. I need to see it, whether that's in L.A., whether that's in Pittsburgh, whether that's in Vegas, whether that's in New Orleans, whether that's in Minnesota even. If Aaron Rodgers is playing, I'm watching. And I want to see it. I defer to Aaron Rodgers' number one hater, Joshy DiMaggio, who I assume he would like to see Rodgers hang it up.
Hasn't this whole thing run its course for you?
No.
Didn't the intrigue of Aaron Rodgers run out as he toiled away in New York? He wasn't able to elevate his team enough. He got his coach fired, his GM fired, complete reconfiguration. Like, there's still moments of brilliance there, but I'm sure if you put Steve Young out there, he'd have moments of brilliance still. Like, okay. Aaron Rodgers.
Well, let's not be ridiculous.
I bet you Aaron Rodgers would say in 20 years he could still go out there and make some throws. He's slow, not that entertaining.
Steve Young
to
is
watch.
63 years old.
Yeah. He's got a chooch.
Huh?
A chooch.
What? I don't know what that is.
Cannon. Chooch. Big arm. Duh.
Nobody's ever called it that.
Google chooch.
No.
You'll find it. It's a baseball term.
I feel
I'm
like
a
IT
baseball
is
guy.
going to be sending us a message if we search that.
Chooch is a slang term that can mean idiot or dummy.
Way off.
Baseball players use it as a strong arm. That's a thing we've said before. I don't know if that's just something we made up ourselves.
The term is derived from the Italian word chuccio and means jackass, dummy, idiot, or moron. Go on, Chooch.
Right here, if you look on Reddit, what's some slang terms you use? Chooch, left arm.
Wait. We're trusting Reddit for our definitions?
Yes.
That's what we're doing as a show.
I just know that I'm not the only one saying it, so that makes me happy. Aaron Rodgers, he was on TMZ. Did you see that little video? He wants to go to a good team.
I did see that, yeah.
Which felt like duh.
Yeah.
But it's exactly what we talked about. Are the Steelers a good team?
Yeah, they're solid.
Fine.
Yeah.
Do you think Aaron Rodgers makes them a Super Bowl contender?
I think he makes them closer than they are right now as it stands, yeah.
Right, but Aaron Rodgers is here to cement a legacy. Is a divisional round exit. What's it going to do for Aaron Rodgers' career and legacy and standing?
Here's the thing with Rodgers, and I guess if we want to use the word legacy, we can go there. His New York Jets legacy sucked. I mean, it was trash, right? That was an awful tenure for him.
Erase that. If he goes goes to the divisional round with the Steelers.
I think you view it a little bit differently, right? Like the post-Packers act has been a disaster. And I think if he's able to go to a Pittsburgh or a Rams and, make the postseason and to your point, maybe win a playoff game, I think you view him a little bit differently than you currently do because of how bad the last 2 years have been for him.
It's interesting the curve we're grading on there. Tom Brady ended his career with the Super Bowl championship. Peyton Manning even went to Super Bowls when he looked like he had nothing to offer.
That's true.
I don't think that's going to happen, no matter where Aaron Rodgers goes, no matter what Aaron Rodgers do.
Let me ask this. We can count out the Raiders because they're obviously not going to be competing next year. Is the Rams or Steelers a better idea for him as Matthew Stafford seeks his way out of Los Angeles?
It's probably the Rams.
Probably.
Their young defense seems to be building something, but I also don't know how many teams, you need to find a pretty specific team to go there. Do you want to bring Aaron Rodgers with a young building team in the Rams? Or is it better to implant him on a more mature team that has more developed players that, the Aaron Rodgers thing you can't discount is he's not necessarily the easiest person to work with.
That's why I think Pittsburgh would make sense.
Right, because Mike Tomlin is known for being able to. But is Aaron Rodgers going to be okay with that? He likes to say he would be. I don't think he would be because as all we've known is, he thought Matt LaFleur was soft.
He did.
But he also didn't like Mike McCarthy for different reasons. And he's always got an enemy. Who's going to be his enemy on the Steelers? If it's not Mike Tomlin, it's going to be Arthur Smith.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers and Arthur Smith would brawl.
Oh, it'd be great.
There's just no chance I don't understand the point of him at this point of his career going out and doing it again to prove he can make the wild card round, the division round.
The thing with Rodgers is, and we know this from covering him and listening to him and obviously tracking his every movement the last several years, he's stubborn as hell.
Remember when he said he wasn't going to be like Brett Favre and hang on too long?
Yeah, but that's clearly not going to be the case. He's going to play next year.
I still don't think he is.
You think he gets retired by the league?
Yes.
I don't.
And I think
somebody's going to give him a shot.
I think the Titans call. I think the Saints call. The Raiders.
But those are ones I don't think he'd take up. I think it's the Steelers or the Rams or the Vikings. And
it's not going to be the Vikings.
No, it's not. But the idea of the Vikings is obviously appealing and interesting and intriguing because of the Favre path, right? Obviously, went to New York for a year and then went to Minnesota for a couple of years after that. Rodgers really only played 1 year in New York, technically 2 seasons with the Jets. If he goes to Minnesota, obviously you're stepping into a really cushy situation for a quarterback, right? Good head coach, offensive-minded head coach, play caller. Really good 1-2 punch at receiver with Jefferson and Addison. T.J. Hawkinson's a pretty good tight end. Aaron Jones is a free agent. It doesn't sound like he'll be back in Minnesota in 2025, but that could be a selling point if he is.
They did extend their deadline for him, so they are working on something. They want to do it if they plan to move on.
Okay, interesting. I did not see that. So, and Chef Ed chimes in on the ESPN Milwaukee YouTube chat. Tomlin and Rodgers would continually butt heads. Yeah, probably 2 really strong personalities.
I think so. The Tomlin thing makes sense because they've had their little flirtations on the sideline in the past. But I think if push came to shove, Aaron Rodgers knows in his heart of heart he doesn't want to be coached like that.
Right.
He's not interested in it, especially at 40 years of age.
Yeah. Chris N chimes in. Is this live? LOL.
As far as I know.
As far as I'm aware, it is live, yes. This thing on? So, yeah, on Rodgers, we're not going to know for at least a month, or close to. A couple weeks, I think we're about 3 weeks away from the new league year beginning and free agency beginning. But this is a fun week because this is NFL Combine week.
It's the best.
All the GMs get together. all of the rumor mills continue to swirl. If you see, Brian Gutekunst chopping it up with a Raiders GM again, like he was at the Senior Bowl. I mean, hey, Max Crosby, how you doing?
Is the Raiders GM, is that a name we know?
It's Spy something. Spycraft. He's a Pewaukee guy. He's from the area, actually, originally. Spytech. John Spytech is his name.
Who would have thunk?
Yeah. Pewaukee High School grad, actually.
Go Pirates.
Super interesting. Yeah, go Pirates indeed.
Wow.
So, anyway. So Wisconsin ties, I think, is really why they were talking about the Senior Bowl, but everybody, rumor mill.
Max Crosby time.
Brian Gutekunst is going to meet with the media tomorrow in Indianapolis, tomorrow morning. The congregated media covering the Packers for his pre-combine meet and greet, essentially, right? Questions about the offseason with the new league year approaching in a couple of weeks. Obviously, the combine is one of the crucial moments for general managers in the offseason as we lead up to the NFL draft in Green Bay in just over 2 months. Actually, 2 months from today, if I'm not mistaken, is the beginning of the NFL draft, April 24th. So, super interesting week and super intrigued to hear from Brian Gutekunst tomorrow. Matt Schneidman of The Athletic wrote a piece, 8 questions he has for Brian Gutekunst at tomorrow's session, which Schneidman, I believe, is in Indianapolis. So it will be interesting to hear his back and forth with Goody tomorrow. I know a couple other members of the Green Bay media down there, Aaron Nagler of Cheesehead TV. I know our guys, Rob Domowski and Jason Wilde, both are not going, but should be a good contingency of some Green Bay media down there during Brian Gutekunst's session tomorrow. So my question for all of you watching, listening, if you're listening back, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, if you've never stumbled into our show before, we do this 3 times a week. You can find it wherever you get your podcast. Shoot me a tweet. I'm super interested what questions you have for Goody going into tomorrow. I've got 4 big ones, and we'll just rifle through them. What are you smiling at?
Shoot me a tweet.
What?
Just people don't say that.
Shoot me a text. Shoot me a tweet.
Yeah. You did the shoot me a text, but with shoot me a tweet.
Shoot me a tweet. It's quick. Chef Ed shoots me tweets all the time.
Josh, you literally came up with a word to talk about somebody's arm. Like, what are we doing?
SDN chimes in. My question for Goody. Boxers or briefs? I bet he's a briefs guy.
I got a question.
Yeah.
Why should we believe you, seeing as you lied to us last year about Aaron Jones and Devondre Campbell?
Now, I will look. I hear you on that one. I actually am going to defend Goody on this one because I think it was his intention to bring Aaron Jones back when he said that. I don't think he realized he'd even be in the running for Josh Jacobs, let alone land him, which is clearly an upgrade, right? Given the season he had. My
intention is to win the lottery. If I go out and do it or not is a different thing.
Yeah, but your intention is to at that point. But if you find out what the Powerball numbers are before they draw
we found out they offered him like $2 million.
Yeah, they shortchanged him.
Yeah, there was no real intent there.
I think he was hoping to get a bargain.
I don't.
Okay, agree to disagree.
I think you should ask Jason Wilde on your weekly, monthly Wilde.
Yeah, the occasional Wilde for the time being.
Because I think he would say the same thing I did, that they had no intention, and that was if he signs for this, what the hell?
Yeah, we can rehash that at another point. But so my big 4 questions for Goody are the following. Number 1, what are you doing with Jair? Right, just tell us what you're doing. He clearly already knows. Right, are they going to rework the deal and hope he can be healthy in 2025? Or are they just going to cut him and designate him as a post-June 1st cut, which is the likely option? You save a lot of money by designating him as a post-June 1st cut. You would save an additional $8 million, a total of like $16.5 million by cutting Jair Alexander and designating it post-June 1. But what is the plan with Jair Alexander? And based on his answer to that question, my next question would be, last offseason, you effectively rebuilt the safety room. You signed Xavier McKinney, you drafted Bullard, you drafted Evan Williams, you rebuilt the safety position. Do you anticipate you can do it again at corner? Now, you're in a little bit better of a spot than you were a year ago at safety because you really had to completely reinvent the wheel there. You only have to do it to a point at cornerback with Carrington Valentine and Keyshawn Nixon returning. Self-proclaimed CB1 Keyshawn Nixon. But you need to build some depth there, which you could do through the draft. And you could also use a true number one, which you would have to, of course, go for in free agency. So is Brian Gutekunst ready to rebuild the corner room like he did the safety room a year ago? That's a big question of mine as it stands right now. Question 3 is, are you even interested in a free agent wide receiver that could be your number one receiver, I say with air quotes, a.k.a. Davante Adams? BBD, as you see on the top right corner of our video stream. Bring back Davante, coined by Chef Ed. Are you open to the idea of a 30, 31, 32-year-old wide receiver who's a proven commodity if they are on the open market? That'd be a big question of mine. We know Davante Adams is interested. We know Packers fans are interested. Is Goody, is the man who constructs the roster, interested in a reunion?
Since he's not been cut, I don't think you can ask him about specific players.
You can't say it by name, but you could say, let's just say hypothetically there's a 31-year-old top-level receiver on the open market.
Who used to be a Green Bay Packer that may have played with Aaron Rodgers last year.
Right. So I think you could talk in hypotheticals on that. Real quick, Josh.
Sorry, I thought you were done.
My final question would be, it is not, as we talked about, as Goody talked about at his season-ending press conference, this is not a team that has done a lot of trades. Is that something you are looking into? Maybe trading a top pick for a proven commodity at any position, edge rusher, receiver, corner, wherever. Is that something you have looked into or are thinking about looking into? That would be my fourth and final question for Brian Gutekunst tomorrow, hoping he answers all of those, because those are the big headlines for me as we get into the NFL Combine, the NFL Draft, free agency, etc.
I like the sentiment of your questions. I think you need to be more direct and kind of corner him and dance so he can't.
Josh, I'm not actually doing the interview.
Right, but I'm saying you need to ask direct questions to sort of. Does this team need to make a trade to become a Super Bowl contender? That's probably the way to ask it, where he can't do the dance around like, well, we're going to approach every avenue, team building. I want to know basically along the lines of, and I haven't figured out the phrasing yet, but by this time in their tenure as GMs, both Ron Wolf and Ted Thompson had won Super Bowls. Is that weighing on you, or is it like, are you considering your employment here and sort of the need to get over that big step? Because I think it does matter, and I think it is factoring into sort of how he might approach this offseason, because he's going on, year 8 as the general manager? Like, the expectations are it needs to either happen now or very soon.
Yeah.
And that's just what it is being the Packers GM, and pressure is a privilege in that sense, because Green Bay Packers fans have such high expectations. But I want to get to the sense of, hey, you mentioned urgency. Well, how urgent are you? What does that urgency mean? Because you might try and say urgency is signing a mid-level free agent pass rusher and drafting a wide receiver. I don't think anybody else really would consider that urgency. Like, are you going to go through extraordinary means to take this core you have and make them contenders?
Yeah. It's a really good question. And look, Goody's a smart dude. We could all agree on that, I think, right? I mean, despite the fact he has not won a Super Bowl, he is a smart guy.
I'd say so.
Maybe he views this as what he did in 2019. Well, not a high bar. Joe Douglas, of course, the now fired Jets general manager from a year ago.
To which, if you remember, Pat McAfee said, I'm sure Joe Douglas is smart. I'm not sure about Goody. Oops.
Oopsies. Yeah.
Opposite.
Indeed. I'd be curious if he tries to take the 2019 approach, where he signs, and we've talked about this quite a bit across all of our shows at ESPN Wisconsin, signs some of those names you don't recognize, but younger guys who can make an impact. So Darius Smith, Preston Smith, Billy Turner, Adrian Amos, of course, that class. So that'll be interesting. I see A.J. Dillon's name is popping up in the comments.
Why?
Great question. He is he's unrestricted free agent, so I don't know if his career's over. I don't think he'll be back in Green Bay with Marshawn Lloyd healthy.
They're looking for an assistant.
Right. Matt LaFleur has not finalized his coaching staff yet, so maybe he's like an assistant running back coach.
Would you rather
at least publicly finalized?
would you rather be an assistant running back coach if you're A.J. Dillon, or get some sort of endorsement with Door County and just be like, I'm going to be the face of Door County, and that's just all you do?
Or
I think he's sort of there.
Or does he play for the Canadian Football League?
Ooh.
There's a lot of space on those fields. I don't know if that plays to his style.
Yeah.
Good point.
You only got those 3 downs, so yeah, I don't think he doesn't seem like a good fit for the CFL.
Arena Football League. There he goes.
Don't think it exists anymore. You're looking for the indoor football league.
Sorry.
Yes.
Big difference between those two
You
leagues.
forgot Strouf is a indoor football hardo.
I saw my friend Joey Bonadonna, the play-by-play voice of the Green Bay Blizzard this weekend. So I talked a little indoor football.
And that's talking indoor football.
Oh, no,
I'm
not done yet. So I was formerly the voice of the Green Bay Blizzard. It was one of my first paid broadcasting jobs. I was the play-by-play voice of the Blizzard, and also did the top 10 plays for the Indoor Football League on social media. So I would actually have, people in the league contact me and say, hey, third quarter, incredible catch over the wall. Just keep an eye on it. And then, Sunday night, I'd sit down, I'd hash through all the games that were played that weekend. I'd pick the top 10 plays. Completely subjective by me. I got to pick the order.
Huh.
Cool little gig I used to have. I'm just telling you. You could probably find those on the internet somewhere. But anyway. So, A.J. Dillon, maybe we'll truck through somebody on those 50-yard fields if that's the route he so chooses. But long and short, I was curious what you're curious about when it comes to Brian Gutekunst and his media availability tomorrow. We will pass these questions on to the Big J journalists that will be in attendance. As somebody mentioned, Mike Spofford, Packers.com will be there as well. It is NFL Combine week. Shedeur Sanders will not work out at the Combine, one of the top prospects in this year's NFL draft.
Go compete.
I agree. He will throw at his pro day next month, which is a weird thing they do. People don't participate in the Combine. They'll just wait for the pro day because it's their element. They get to control it a little bit more. He's
approaching this as if he's Caleb Williams.
Bona fide number 1 pick, which he's not.
No, which is
probably a top 5 pick. But
yeah, and that's out of desperation because a lot of the experts are saying if both these guys were in last year's draft, they're getting drafted after Bo Nix, who I believe was the 6th quarterback off the...
Yeah.
So
remember last year's draft? It was such a strange draft, wasn't it? Like 26 offensive players in the first round.
Yes.
It was really strange, and 6 quarterbacks and 12 picks or whatever it was, which broke a record.
A lot of QBs, a lot of tackles, wide receivers.
Yeah, a lot of receivers. Obviously, Malik Neighbors, Marvin Harrison, etc. Brian Thomas, all drafted in the first round. Yeah, Brock Bowers, the tight end in Vegas now. In the first round. It was a weird draft. I imagine we will not see that. Now, Hunter, I must correct you. On-field workouts start Thursday. I actually believe they start Wednesday, don't they? Don't punters, kickers, and long snappers go Wednesday?
According to Google AI, I've got Thursday, February 27th, defensive linemen and linebackers from 3 to 8 p.m. Eastern time.
Okay. Wednesday is kickers, punters, and long snappers. Yeah, according to Pat McAfee and Adam Schefter.
Okay, great. I don't care about those guys.
Yeah.
That's fair. I mean, I don't think the Packers need a draft done as long as they bring back Brandon McManus. Oh, that's another question for Goody. Is that a top?
Have we chatted?
He can talk about unrestricted free agents that were Packers, right? So
yes.
Like McManus, Stokes, Myers.
Isn't this technically considered like the
legal tampering?
No, it is. You're allowed to with your own free agents. Like you're allowed to have exclusive rights to those conversations. Gotcha. I believe is the way it's phrased.
Gotcha. So yeah, I'd be curious on the internal free agents. There's not many this year. Josh Myers, obviously the big one, the center. Brandon McManus, the kicker. Eric Stokes, the cornerback. Kind of the 3 big ones for Green Bay. I'd be curious if he has intention to bring any of those guys back. McManus, I would assume he is. The other 2, I wouldn't put money on it. I also wouldn't rule it out for either of them, but I would guess Myers is going to get paid kindly, handsomely elsewhere. And Eric Stokes' change of scenery wouldn't be bad for him. Former first-round pick. As Mark Tauscher often points out, as 7th-round picks, you got to always prove you belong. First-round picks have to prove they don't belong. Eric Stokes, at least the beginning of his career, proved he did not belong in Green Bay. We will see if he's able to catch on elsewhere once free agency starts next month. So NFL Combine Week, always a weird week, right? Like interviews. You've heard all the stories, I'm sure, from former players who have attended the Combine. Some of the questions they get asked, like these GMs like to get tricky with it a little bit.
That's sort of changed. I believe they've regulated that. It used to be a free-for-all. But asking Des Bryant if his mother is a prostitute, I believe those days are gone.
Yeah.
Wait, is that a real story?
Yes.
Yeah.
That was not the Cowboys that asked that, but I remember after he got drafted and was talking about that, that's part of why he was so excited to be drafted by the Cowboys, because they were like, he was like, Jerry Jones was like super respectful and like great about it. But yeah, some teams do some
Why would
wild
they ask
stuff.
him that?
Just because he had a history of like on field like fighting and things like that. So it's the whole idea is to like try and get under their skin, and like they're already tired from everything else they're doing. So see if you can like get the guys to break and how they handle that, because that matters to some of the GMs. So
It's like Craig Karmazin. I know he's pretty synonymous with this in his interviews when he used to interview every single person that was hired here. He throws you a question to get you off balance. It's generally not I shouldn't say generally. It's nothing close to that. Like mine was, when was the last time you lied and felt bad about it? It's just an atypical interview question to throw you sort of and to see how you react in that moment.
Me and Craig, when I had to do my interview, I hope he doesn't mind that I'm sharing this. We bonded over the fact of divorced parents. And I was approaching college graduation when I joined the team full time. And he said, so how's that going to go? Right? Like divorced mom, divorced dad. How are they going to, are they going to interact at your college graduation? I was like, good question, Craig. We're all going to find out. It ended up being good. They were civil. They were civil. Because this was, I graduated in 2021, so we were kind of still coming out of the pandemic. Could only have 2 people attend my college graduation. So naturally, I invited each of my parents.
Yeah. I'm glad they were able to be adults in that situation.
Yeah, just the 3 of us. Which I don't know that there's ever been another situation where it was just the 3 of us since I was like 5 years old. Right? Usually my brother's there or my dad's wife is there. My stepmom. So that one was interesting. Yeah, we had a few brews. I walked, hugged the chancellor, and then had a few more brews.
The cool thing about the Combine, to take us back there, is this matters for Packers fans. Yeah. Because the Packers are so reliant on athleticism and testing. Obviously, we see it, and it happens every year. The RAS stuff comes out because those numbers are determined as they go through the drills throughout the week. The Packers certainly aren't using RAS. They're using something that's pretty similar because those guys who test in the 9s or high 8s or even up to 10 are generally guys on the Packers' radar or guys they end up with. So it does, when you see, and if you're just so happen to be watching randomly and you see a guy that's absolutely having like a day everyone's talking about, know that guy is a Packers target. Just based simply alone on his size, speed, and athleticism. Those guys are all part of the part of it. So it does matter, and it is worthy of paying attention to if you're trying to get an idea of who are some of the guys that might end up on the Packers team.
It's really funny to look back on the RAS score, the relative athletic score that stands for. Lucas Van Ness was a 9.6.
Yeah.
Jordan Morgan last year, 9.1.
Yeah.
And this is out of 10.0, obviously. I think there's only been 2 10.0s ever.
Well, there's one for each position because 10 is the most athletic person ever at that position.
Okay, so Saquon Barkley, I know, was a 10.0.
Anthony Richardson was at quarterback as well.
Oh, he was?
Yes.
Interesting.
And he might have got downgraded too. It's him or Cam Newton.
Did Marvin, one of the receivers, I think, had a 10.0 last year?
It wasn't Marvin Harrison because he didn't test because he's not very fast.
Oh, okay. Maybe it was Malik Neighbors then. Brock Bowers, I think, might have been a 10.0 or close to it.
Yeah. Tucker Kraft and Luke Musgrave, both very high RAS scores.
Oh, you know who it was? Who I'm thinking of was former Wisconsin running back. He's in San Francisco. Isaac Guerendo.
Yes.
Isaac Guerendo had the second best running back RAS score ever behind only Saquon Barkley. Bonkers.
Yeah.
And he had a nice rookie year until he got hurt.
As I said, and he went higher than we all would have expected based on his career production because of that blend of size and speed.
Yeah. So we will see. We'll see. But go ahead, Hunter.
Is there anything that you guys, when you're watching this, like you're looking out for? Like for me, I'm always just like, I want to see the guys that actually look like they prepared for this on-field stuff, because you can always kind of tell. Like, you know what the cone drill is. You know, if you're a lineman, what sort of drill they're going to ask you to do. Like, do these guys look like they actually spent the time since the college football season ended to get ready for this? Or are they just like, oh, I'm just going to walk in and do whatever?
I have an idea. Sorry, Hunter. While you were talking, I thought of a great idea.
Okay.
Now, it might be a bad idea given Josh's recent story regarding his calf.
I'm not running anything to do with it.
No.
I'll do it. I'll do it all, but I would need you to time me and
I'd
supervise.
Time, yeah.
Supervise. So what would I all have to do?
40-yard dash. The broad jump.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh God.
Vertical.
The vertical.
And then would we be able to calculate my RAS score?
I don't know. I think you can plug it in. I think he has it available on his website. That's Kent.
Literally
Platt, or whatever his name
RAS
is.
calculator. Yep.
Yeah, so you would be able to do it.
Oh, wow.
You punch in your height and weight, and then you run your 3-cone. You do
I
your
have
jumps.
the list. So it's
Okay,
the 40,
here's
20, 10, bench, vertical, broad, shuttle, and 3-cone.
Well, we can already say bench is 0.
Yeah.
I'm not putting up 225.
Yeah, that's dangerous.
So that's a 0. What else was it? Broad jump. Okay, I would stink at that. I'd legitimately have like a 1.3. I mean, it would be the worst.
There's
score
no
in
way
history.
you would only jump a foot for your broad jump.
Oh, I think you'd be surprised.
Get up
Hunter.
and do a quick one here for me right now.
On the table?
No, just right
On
across the room there.
Like,
Yeah, or do it right behind there so people can catch you in the
Yeah,
screen back
so we
there.
can
So
see
I'm
it.
just trying to get from one place to another?
yeah.
Put your heels up against or near the window there,
Okay.
and jump towards the microphone. And you can swing your arms, and then just launch yourself as you would.
I didn't make it very far.
That's more than a foot.
Yeah.
It's more than a foot. I can tell you that much.
what,
you might
maybe
have-
4?
You might have rivaled Jordan Davis's broad jump on that one. He probably actually got more, to be quite frank.
Yeah, I believe that. I'm not wearing my best shoes today, though.
Oh, it's shoes
Oh,
thing.
you're not
So it's a
wearing the
shoes thing.
TikTok shop shoes.
You don't
no,
strike
I'm
me
not.
as particularly limber, so I think the 3-cone would be an adventure for you.
He's going to fall
Because that's a
during
lot
it.
of quick.
All
Yeah.
right, do you think we could execute this prior to Wednesday's show?
I mean, we could do it tomorrow easily.
All right, let's do it tomorrow.
But, I mean, we have we have the workout center here and the pickleball courts. We could use those. I don't have any cones or anything.
Oh, we can acquire cones.
Yeah, I imagine we probably have some of those and we could do them.
All right, the Strouf Combine workout coming to you later this
We
week.
might have an issue with high jump. We might have to make our own.
Okay.
We might have to kind of.
I'll tell you right now, I'm not getting above a foot and a half.
But, I mean, a high jump is easy. All you do is reach up, put a piece of tape, and then you get a second
maybe we
tape.
just give them.
Yeah,
Maybe
that's easy.
maybe we just give them a post-it note.
yeah,
Have 'em slap.
yeah, that's an
exactly.
idea. All right. So here's our plan. What we're gonna do is after we're on the show here today, I will coordinate with Maddie Hayes, our social media coordinator, manager, whatever her title is, social media girl, and we
Queen.
will do this tomorrow.
The one thing, 40 might be difficult. We might have to go outside for
Well,
that
it's
one.
51 degrees out right
That's
now. We can
true.
do it right now.
Yeah. We might have to take a little field trip for that, but I think everything else can be done within the confines of this building.
Okay, so in celebration of the NFL Combine, I'm putting myself through the Combine drills. Anything else I need to do? Do I need to throw a football or anything?
There's a short shuttle.
I don't know what that is.
I think it's like 5'10".
Oh, okay.
We do have to put on here a position, and we're going to have to measure your hands and arm length as well on this.
I think some of those you can just leave out.
Yeah, but I'm just saying we should put a position on it because it might affect what the RAS score is. Like a 10 for a right tackle is going to be different than a 10 for a wide receiver. So we need to give Strouf a position.
I think tight end would be...
I'm too thin. Probably receiver.
Yeah, but
Or maybe a safety.
receiver, you're dealing with 6'4", 210 guys that can jump and run out of the building.
I'm 6'3" and can't do either of those
Right.
things.
So
Plus,
I'm
do you have
trying to
tiny
put
Free
hands?
safety? I have pretty good hands.
free safety. I believe the all-time long in terms of broad jump comes from the free safety position, so that would hurt you a lot.
Yeah, Byron
you can
Jones,
plug in
former
your
Cowboy,
college?
set a world record in that.
Yeah, Yeah, him and Obi Melifonwu have been. I believe Obi was near record breaking, and then Byron actually did.
Bring a tape measure tomorrow, and we're gonna knock this out. I'll wear my best shoes.
You bring a tape measure.
I don't think I own one. And you're wearing a camo hat, so I just assume you do.
I own a few.
I was gonna say that the flannel might have said he's got it, but
yeah, I do. I could find about 3 of them in 5 minutes in my house.
Fantastic. All right, we will.
I have to remember though. I'm gonna set a reminder.
Yeah, I'll shoot you a text too because I actually do want to hash this out. So, the NFL, the Alex Strouf Combine and RAS score coming to you later this week on Mr. Irrelevant. Good idea, guys.
I think we can also get around. We can do multiple positions. We can put you at QB, tight end, wide receiver.
We could give him. Let's just give him every single position. I mean, I can. Just
I shouldn't even
keep
attempt the bench press, right?
No,
because it's 225.
Yeah,
I'm not putting that up.
I can't do 225.
Yeah. Okay. Good to know. All right, we will report back on that later in the week.
We'll mark you for 0.
Well, one
and also,
one of them in the back.
I feel I don't want to risk injury, even though there's a real chance of a popped hammy tomorrow.
Yeah, please hydrate tonight.
Hydrate properly.
Make sure you're stretching.
How many inches is 6'3"? 6 times 12 is. Don't tell me. 6 times 12 is 72.
Yeah.
Plus 3 is 75. So I'm 75 inches. It's giving me a 0 for height at free safety.
I don't think that's correct.
Well, because you don't have any data in the other spots yet.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Right, because it needs a height and weight to kind of give you a size score.
And I was going to say, make sure when you weigh in, put some baggy clothes on you. We got to get that number up there a little bit.
This is going to be good. This might be the best stuff I ever make. I mean, this is going to get good.
I just hope you have thick skin because I don't think the people are going to be nice to you.
That's all right. I'm not an athlete. I mean, we know this, right? I'm a radio guy.
I've seen Aaron Goldhammer in Cleveland have to do some athletic endeavors. Never been good. We're best talking.
Yeah, I'm better behind a microphone. All right, that'll do it on that. Wanted to hit the Bucks. We'll come back to them Wednesday because we're running out of showtime here. I want to get to what we learned. Well, I learned that I was advised against referring to what blew up on the internet this weekend regarding a certain former NFL wide receiver. Boy, was that crazy. So that's that. Joshua, what'd you learn?
I'm working on pulling up the things I had here because, I mean, I learned a lot this weekend.
Did you?
I mean, I learned that the furry convention was in fact in town.
Yeah,
that was something
that was confirmed.
I wasn't super sure about happening. Did you see that the Michigan basketball player on the Michigan team proposed to his girlfriend after the game in which they lost to rival Michigan State?
That is correct. Yes.
I feel like you got to wait for a dub. Like maybe Rutgers comes to town. I don't know who else is bad.
Northwestern's bad.
Something along those lines. You got to engage with a dub.
Or I mean, after you lose, just walk away. I mean, and then do it that night. Do it. Go take a walk on the lake by the lake.
Do something. You got to separate from what just took place.
You can't do it on the hardwood after you lose.
No,
that's
also.
Brutal.
Now, I know all relationships are different here, but it seems like there's a lot of men just make it, how would I like to get engaged, and not the other person. Like, does your girlfriend want to be engaged at center court at whatever the arena's called in Michigan?
After a loss.
Yeah. Is that really what she dreamt of as a child?
You got to ask sister, her mom, best friend. She has talked to them about this before. I went right to the twin sister to find out exactly how Sarah wanted to be proposed to. I'm not no dummy.
And it worked out. It worked out well.
She actually said yes.
Well, considering you're married, I figured, but I
didn't have to ask a second time. So
it does seem like, and I'm not trying to be like male chauvinist here, but this is the engagement is typically bigger for the woman. Most guys, we go through life going, we want to get married. We don't really tell us the story of how it's going to happen. Like, there is no, this is what I would like to happen on my engagement. I'm more concerned with, is the yes going to come, and and what am I going to say?
Yeah.
Am I going to embarrass myself in those however many seconds? Those are my biggest concerns.
Yeah. By the way, Marquette and Wisconsin, both weird losses over the weekend.
Oof, that Wisconsin game.
That Wisconsin game was frustrating.
16 points they were up by?
17.
Yeah.
They just couldn't score. Couldn't do anything.
Couldn't take the top off the lid off the basket.
There
we go. Got there.
Nailed it.
Down the stretch there in that second half. Clutch 3 by that Oregon player to send that game to overtime ultimately. Oregon, Wisconsin, Oregon, the state. Wisconsin holds steady, number 11 in this week's AP poll. Marquette down to 21, dropping 5 spots. Which that might be their lowest ranking of the year, I would guess.
It is.
They've been a top 15 team pretty much all year.
Yeah.
They have lost 4 of their last 6, including to St. John's, who's now in the top 10, UConn earlier, Creighton, and then ultimately Villanova, a 15-point loss on Saturday for the Golden Eagles, who just cannot find their offense. Have only scored 66 points in that one. Their last win, they scored 80 against Seton Hall, who stinks, but then it was 68 against DePaul, 67 in the loss to Creighton, 64 in the loss to St. John's, 69 in the loss to UConn. This team can't score over 70 points.
No. I was out on Friday and the games were on TV, and I've watched probably more Marquette than I have, like, start to finish.
Okay.
It seemed like everything was a challenge.
Yep.
It seemed like they just didn't really know what was happening. There was no way to get any offensive flow. It was a rather unenjoyable watch, which I'm not used to when you're watching Marquette on offense.
Yeah, I mean, they've been...
I'm not a Marquette fan, but they usually got a good thing going on offense, regardless of the scenarios. And it felt like something haven't really seen from them in a long time.
Agreed. Yeah, I mean, maybe they'll turn it around when you have a player like Cam Jones. Hopefully, he can figure it out offensively. But he's been struggling. This whole offense has been struggling. I mean, Zayd Lowry scored 25 other points off the bench over the weekend. So, really, really weird one for Marquette in a 15-point loss to Villanova. But the Badgers' loss was bad, too. I mean, they didn't score like they have been all year. Right, they weren't in the 70s, they weren't in the 80s, they weren't in the 90s.
That, and then some reason it just stopped.
It just stopped, right. And
that second half was as bad of basketball as I've watched.
It's a bad loss, but it is what it is. Still got some time left, about 2 weeks out from the Big Ten tournament. 14 plus 6 is 20. 20 days away from Selection Sunday.
Wow, look at you.
Pretty
Couldn't
wild,
just
man.
Say
Pretty
3
exciting
weeks
stuff.
and take a day off of there. Had to go the hard route.
He's a math guy.
Clearly.
Known math
RAS guy.
RAS guy. I can't wait for the combine, man. We're going to do that this week. All right, we are back with you Wednesday
Okay, I
beginning
won't
at
give what I
12:30
learned.
Central.
That's okay.
Wow.
You just jumped right over me. I see where I am.
Cut him off.
Okay. Cool.
What do you got out there?
Nope, we're
do you
good.
got?
I'll save it for Wednesday.
Boycott it. Boycott it.
We're back with you Wednesday beginning at 12:30 Central, ESPN Milwaukee, ESPN Madison on YouTube. And a reminder, you can get us wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Wisconsin On Demand. Just search Mr. Irrelevant will be the first result that pops up. If you haven't already, please subscribe there. We're trying to push out some unique stuff and specials, the days we're not on, which is, of course, we're on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So Tuesdays, Thursdays, the weekends, we're throwing up some bonus stuff in the podcast feed, which you can find wherever you get your podcasts. Appreciate you there. And we've got a combine to attend, baby. We've got an RAS score to calculate. Can't wait to get going. We'll talk to you Wednesday. Peace.